I'm Ryan Milton from Team Flex, and today we're going to go ahead and break it down Pittsburgh Pro Bikini. We're going to look at our top 10 placings, and we're going to go over the criteria, talk about those placings, why they may have landed the way they did, and ultimately what that means for you as a bikini competitor out there on any stage 2025, trying to get yourself, that pro card, trying to win your show, maybe do your first competition, whatever it is. I'm giving you the tools, the tips, the strategies, stuff you want to know to be doing that. So make sure you subscribe, you hang out with me. We got a lot of videos coming, a lot of good stuff for you. All right. So let's get down to business. We have 3 athletes on our screen today. We're working a bit of a new setup, by the way. So let me know what you guys think of this setup here. Cause now I have, ability to zoom in and, do all kinds of other stuff that we have not been able to do before. So if you like that, comment that. Okay. So we have our top 3 here. We have in first, Amy. Everybody knows Amy. Everybody knows Ashlyn taking second. And everybody, of course, knows Maureen taking third. So a very, very competitive top 3 here. And as I said, we're going to do top 10. So we're going to go through a lot of them here. But, let's just start with the basics. As you all know, bikini division is all about that hourglass shape. And each one of these athletes, they're really going to hold that together, especially being in the pro league. There is absolutely no doubt. This season, it has seemed to be that balance has been getting hammered harder than ever right now at many competitions, right? I'm seeing that all the way down to the NPC level. It is really all about balance in bikini division right now. Judges are looking for it up, down, left, and right. And that's what's creating that hourglass shape. So, if we look at Amy, this is debatably the best Amy that I have seen on stage, period. Okay, so Amy's been one of those athletes that if you've watched me commentate, on competitions with her in there, I have said before, sometimes she does get a little bit shoulder forward, a little maybe over muscular in her glute. This is not the case for this Pittsburgh Pro, okay? Like she really did bring in a very shaped out, just totally dialed in look for this. I do not think for the first time looking at her physique in a while, right, that anything is blatantly out of context. It is all pretty much there. It is all coming well pretty much together to showcase a very good hourglass shape on her frame. So this is the most balanced Amy that we have seen, and I think that echoes in her placing here, right? She goes ahead and wins the Pittsburgh Pro, which is nothing to scoff at. That is a huge, huge win for her. Congratulations on that. She did tone down her shoulders, right? So these shoulders do have the fullness. They show the shape, but it's not overdone. It's not over dominant. It's not giving a shorter forward look. She's dialed that in to the point where it gives a very good waist taper for her. So a very dramatic sweeping tapered look is absolutely what you want to be pulling together in bikini division, no matter your level. So figure out how to get that waist narrow and how to get your delts to come up, get those shoulders to fill out a bit. That's what judges really are looking for. And more than ever, it's coming through at every level right now. Looking at her lower body, right, she's got the upper glute structure, very important for bikini, especially as you climb the ranks. If you want to be getting up there, trying to win your class, getting overall, go get a pro card. Upper glute, absolutely got to have it. No question about it. You really need to focus on that upper glute density, and that creates that roundness and that fullness from the back. We'll see that when we get there. Sometimes Amy's glutes can be overdone. Not really the case here. Everything looks very symmetrical compared to the hamstrings and the quads, in very good harmony. So overall, really complete look for Amy. Just pulls together a very perfected symmetry with a lot of muscle, let's be honest, on the frame. So that's a good thing for bikini. Conditioning wise, she has probably, I think, toned down her conditioning some from what she normally brings to stage, which is a good thing for where bikini's going this season, right? So we can see some conditioning notes in shoulder separation, maybe a little bit in the upper body, some into the oblique, and then glutes and quads here. These are about the points that you're going to look for on a bikini competitor, okay? And she's really pulled that together. It's a softer level of condition for her. So overall, what I would say is, Amy came in here a little bit less over muscled and a little bit softer, and she's winning Pittsburgh Pro with probably the best physique I've seen her have, right? So very good from the front, not much to, really go too much into other than that. Now looking at Ashlyn, she takes second here. So it's a very close, very close competition at this point. What we can see is good shoulder shape, tapers in at the waist, very narrow waist for Ashlyn. She always has that, and it just ties together very well. Looking lower body wise, we got the solid glute structure. Upper glute is there. Overall glute density, Pretty common to see this in the pro league, right? And good harmony match between the quads and also the hamstring. So she really does tie the look together. Where it is a little bit different here, because it's very close. This is a very close group here, which is pretty common. What we're always going to see at the pro level. I mean, it's very, very close all the time, but looking here, definitely can see a little bit less fullness in her physique, right? So maybe not as much coming from the shoulders here to create that effect, which does reduce the dramatic taper effect of the waist. She has a very narrow waist, so it's still there, but Amy's definitely looking a little bit fuller up top, right? She's got a little bit more of that muscle density in the shoulders, a little bit more of that, just fullness, even maybe into the lower body and the glute. However, Ashton's does look pretty close, maybe just a little bit more though. I will say also though, looking at Ashton's glute here in this shot, at least it could be just a tad tipping, dominance here, meaning like it looks a little bit more developed in the symmetry points from the quads and the hamstrings. So that may be a factor. She also does appear to me just a tad leaner than Amy does. So overall, Amy kind of softened her conditioning up. Ashton looks a little bit harder. We start to see a little bit more feathering in that oblique. Her arms are looking pretty lean here. The standing leg, I always talk about that leg, right? The non-standing leg, that is, right? I always talk about that leg being one of those zones where if you start to see that feathering up, it's pretty lean athlete. Amy doesn't have it for, this competition. She has prior. Ashton does, so maybe a tad leaner. So a little bit less fullness coming out of Ashton's physique overall may have been the ticker. Keep in mind, we're not into the back pose yet. And of course, all these athletes are extraordinary examples of the criteria for bikini, no doubt. I'm just giving you further breakdowns, analysis, ideas about maybe why these placings could land the way they did. So now we take a look over at Maureen, right? And so Maureen, Maureen has brought, a little bit fuller of physique than she typically does, right? So she looks to be a little bit more muscled in the shoulders here, a little bit maybe thicker in the waist, and lower body wise, it's coming across mostly in glutes, not as much from the quads and the hamstrings here. So it is a very good physique for her. It's not her best at all. It's definitely not the best that I've seen of Maureen there, but she does have, all the classic markers where she can take that feedback and go apply it. I would say she looks a little bit, thicker in the midsection than our other two above. And, her shoulders do appear just a tad more dominant. Mainly though, looking at lower body, she's getting like a very glute dominant effect in my opinion, right? Where this quad and the hamstring, they're just not showing that same level of size. Her conditioning seems to be very good, very on point here. Maybe needs, honestly, maybe just a little bit softer because this oblique's coming a little bit hard. And some of these other, groupings could be seen maybe just a little bit too much. But when we look at Maureen compared here, right, to Amy and Ashlyn, she definitely does seem to be a little bit more of that muscle look right there. So again, Bikini's kind of been moving that way, away from that. And, Amy was one of those that, a lot of times you could have said Amy's going to look a little bit too dominant. Well, she didn't bring that this time. She wins. So I think that's a pretty good testament of where this division may ultimately be going. However, as I always say, we got to get to the back, right? So here we are jumping into the back. What we can see here, is the full story every single time. No doubt we always get it. Judges are still looking for a lot of those, similarities as far as things go. They're always looking for that hourglass shape to go ahead and pull through here. And that is, again, what they're going to assess. Now, obviously, you're mostly looking at the lower body here. And that's going to be glutes, hamstrings, tie-in, stuff like that. You want to see a little bit of a tie-in, slight separation, not overly exemplified in the pro leagues. It's going to look like more than it does the amateurs, right? And that's just the way it goes. So let's take a look at Amy a little bit closer up here. So Amy has that shoulder shape showing from the back here, which is just about where you want to be. And like I said, she's toned these down a bit. They used to be, they were very dominant look. It would almost overpower. She's definitely brought the shoulders down a bit, and it's created that, aesthetic there where, okay, that's our first piece of the hourglass. Tapers in narrow at the waist here, creates that perfect look. And lower body wise, okay, so sometimes Amy has looked very dominant in the glute from the back. We are not seeing that today. So she definitely did bring a different, downsized a little bit in the muscle department. Reshaped is probably the better word to use, physique for this. And, her lower body looks ultra symmetrical from this point, right? So very good shape from the glutes and the quads and the hamstrings, all to match together to tie in perfectly for this division, as well as, just a slight slight separation between the glutes and the hamstrings than that tie-in, which is, again, exactly what judges want to see. That is a soft look. That is a not overdone look. This is not a super etched in hard tie-in. It is a softer conditioning for Amy. And overall, she wins this entire competition here. Very, very competitive. And I think it's a pretty clear testament from judges where Bikini division has been going. And I've seen it pretty much at every show this year. Bikini is, going away from the super mass, big, ultimately oversized muscle look, and ultimately the super shred look as well. And Amy's really pulling off a very good example of where this criteria is going this year right now. Now, looking over at Ashton, okay, so we'll just put them like this for a second, a little side by side here. So instantly you can tell Ashton's a little bit depleted up top, not as much shoulders going on here. And that may be because she chased a tighter condition, or maybe it's just her shoulder structure. But either way, not as full as what's going on up here. Judges are looking for this fullness. That's what they want to see. That's what they're after right now in Bikini especially. She also is definitely tighter than Amy is from the back. We can see that in her hamstrings a lot. We can see that even into a tie-in that's appearing a bit harder. And ultimately, we can even see, a little bit of stuff, veins and things like that in the arms. So she's definitely leaner, a little bit more depleted maybe in fullness, and thus, that is kind of probably what's moving her down into that placing bit. Her glute structure seems to be very good, on point here. Upper glute is there overall. Glute density, symmetry is really, really good. Tie-in maybe a tad hard, and just a tad lean overall. Maybe could use a little more fullness up top to balance out with that lower body. But overall, very close placing here. You could have really gone either way. Now, Maureen from the back, this is where, again, some of what I gave you on the front appears super relevant. It appears very, very clear at this point. Her upper body's looking a little bit dominant. You can even see it in the trap, which probably wasn't supposed to be sneaking out like that yet. There it is, right? That is a lot of density going on, a lot of muscle up top. This is not the same as her previous Olympia win looks, anything like that. It does look, a bit asymmetrical to me, right? Like a lot of dominance coming up top here, not as much coming from the lower body. Her glutes in that front pose looked like they were overpowering from the back. It's not really the same effect, but it also may appear to be just a tad bit of an imbalance going on here left to right as well. Either way, not pulling the same level of density or 3D effect from the tie-in. And I do think the quads and the hamstrings probably need a little bit more fullness to match her, where she's at overall right there. Obviously, let's continue down our line here with some of the other. We're going into top 10, so hang out with me. We got a lot to do here. We're going to get down to it. So two more of these athletes are going to join the lineup, and we have Evie over here, and then we have Maria over here, okay? So we're going to leave Amy in the middle as the winner to hopefully give you a better insight into just ultimately where the criteria is going right now as this is shaping out 2025 seasons for many, many of you athletes competing. Okay, so Evie over here. A very, very muscled and very lean look. You can almost instantly just see the massive difference between these two physiques. Okay, Amy's clearly a bit softer, clearly a bit less muscled, clearly a bit more shapely. Evie definitely came in a bit big, a lot of muscle going on in the upper body, very lean in the midsection. I mean, her overall structure and muscularity is great, but she is definitely lean and definitely a little bit muscle dominant, maybe you could say, right? And, maybe she just softened up. It'd be the perfect overall look. Her upper body, this is another thing competitors encounter a lot. Her upper body appears to be a bit harder than her lower does, right? So is something that you can run into when you're chasing the shreds a lot and you're getting very lean. You might get a little bit of that uneven condition. That is going to be noted, by judges, and that will be something that comes up in placings as well. So she's taken fourth here. Absolutely nothing to scoff at, but definitely a little bit more muscled, a little bit even bigger in the lats, very hard in the waist. Start to see a little bit of that six-pack coming through. This oblique is pretty, it's pretty dense. So overall, a leaner, more muscled look. This standing leg doing a little bit of that feathering too, just to indicate again where that conditioning is. So taking fourth, nothing to scoff at. Don't get me wrong. Great example still of criteria for all of you amateurs especially, but to give you further insight of how these placings may be breaking down, that's one of those areas I would look at, okay? Now, let's take a look at Maria. So Maria's over here, and what we got Good overall shape here. Tapers in at the waist pretty well. Lower body is here. Everything's good. For her, it's not as much shape and not as much muscle actually coming from her physique, in my opinion, at least in this shot, right? So, if we put her over here side by side with Amy, Amy's got a lot more of this shape and taper in versus over here Maria, right? It's just not really the same. We're not getting as much of that density coming out of the shoulders, not as dramatic of a taper into the waist, and not as much fullness from the glute either. So pretty on par actually conditioning wise, right, where you would want to see it. Just probably needs a little bit more muscle in this lineup. 5th place, again, nothing to scoff at. Excellent job to all of these women that are setting great examples for everybody out here for the criteria. But just trying to break down a bit further where these things may go. Also, I gotta plug it in here. If you want to check out my free coaching trial experience, you can do that now. Just grab your phone literally as you're watching the video here, jump in and go to teamfflex.com/7-day trial. And you can train with me free for 7 days, okay? I can give you feedback on your physique. You like these analyses, you learn things, get one for yourself, okay? Come in there, send me your check-ins. I'll give you an analysis. I'll let you know all these things. I can design you custom training sessions. They're going to get you ready. I can answer any of your questions. I basically coach you as if you're one of my clients free for 7 days. There's absolutely no reason not to do it. And I do it as a give back to the community because this is how I make my living. This is what I do. I'm a coach, and I get to do this. So I want to give back. I want to help all you people out there, and that's why I do the YouTube. I do a lot better when you get in actually training with me. So go check that out, okay? Now let's go back, 4th and 5th here, where we're going to look at the again, Evie and then Maria. So Evie over here, definitely just, very muscular. We see it in the upper body. We can see, some pretty good muscle even in the triceps. Oftentimes a very big indicator of what's going on in the upper body. You'll notice Amy does not have that going on, at least at this event here. So, just a lot of muscle density for her. She's got a lot of muscle in the upper glute, overall glutes. Everything, looks shapely wise, very good. Honestly, she probably could just soften up a little bit and she might place even higher just doing that. But she does have a very muscled look, and I think, judges are kind of moving away from the very heavy muscle look, even in the pro league. So they're especially doing that at the amateurs right now. Okay, so Maria, now looking here, we can see again, good overall shape, structure from the shoulders, taper in, lower body seems to be pretty good. What stands out is a lot of glutes here. We get a lot of glute size from the upper glute and overall glute, which is good in bikini. You want to have it, but it makes her legs look a little bit underdone, I think, right? So it just makes them look a little bit behind in that development. And, the hamstrings and a little bit even of that quad you can see from the back here. Those may be key markers for, again, judges are just looking for a little bit more of that muscle and fullness and a little bit more of that symmetry to match here in this grouping. The top 5, however, always very close. But I think when you really line them up like this, I mean, Amy, yet again, a little bit less a muscle, a little bit softer, pulling this off, total shape look, best she's ever been, in my opinion. And again, a very clear message for where this criteria is going in 2025. Do you agree with me? Watching, all you viewers, comment, jump in there. Let's have a conversation. I love chatting with all of you. I love hearing your opinions. I know that you all have your own ideas too. I want to hear it. Comment, please. All right, let's take a look now. We're going to move down the line. We're going to go to 6th, and then we're going to go to 7th here. We're going to keep moving down this top 10, like I said. So if you enjoy this and you want more, let me know. We're going to be doing some other divisions on Pittsburgh Pro too, so check that out. I'm going to do the amateurs as well. All right, let's get down to business. So 6th place, Alexandra here. So for her, we can see overall, well, let's zoom in because it's a little bit just too far out. Okay, so compared to Amy now in the first, we got a lot of comparisons, a lot of similarities. We could say, oh, yeah, shoulders, okay. Oh, yeah, waist, okay. Oh, yeah, glute structure, hamstrings, all this. Okay, good. Yeah. Well, what we can see for sure is that Alexandra, she's bringing a very, very, tight look. It's a very lean look compared to what Amy's got going on here. So we can see veins in the shoulders. We see even a little feathering in the shoulders, very hard oblique lines, a lot of lines going here, lines in that standing leg. So she's just very lean, a lot leaner. She still has good shape, but it is depleted a bit. Not as much of that shoulder coming through, not as much of that glute coming through. This is what happens, sometimes when you're chasing the shreds, or maybe it was a purposeful look. But either way, that's the difference that we're seeing right here pretty much play out right in front of you, right? She's taking 6th. Leaner, a little bit more, of that hard muscle look, not much of that full look there. But obviously, we didn't get to the back yet, and we will in just a second. Alice, again, same sort of a look, right? In a lot of ways, like it's all coming together right here into the waist. Glute structures going on here. Everything's good, all in symmetry. A bit lean though, just a bit lean. The standing leg again, all this and that. So these are some of those markers that, again, I think are really being hammered at pro events right now, where fit model came into play, and it was into play to kind of pull criteria in a way, make a new criteria that was more attainable, right? A little bit less muscle, a little bit less conditioning in the bikini, get more women competing, more athletes involved. Well, it did also, I think, return a lot of the divisions, the women's divisions, in other words, bikini, wellness, down a bit, like bring them down, bring them back to their roots in some ways. And that makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways, right? Like judges if they want more people, not judges, if the organization wants more competitors, right? More people competing, it makes sense you would make the criteria more attainable across the board to get that to happen, right? Especially if you've made a whole new division, because some of these other ones got a little bit more aggressive. So some of these more aggressive bikini looks is what is moving down into this top 10 as we continue to move our way down, right? It seems the bigger and leaner athletes are placing a little bit lower here. And that's just kind of how it all does tie together here. And Amy's look, is her least aggressive that I've seen, and she wins. So I know I've said that 50 times. I'll quit saying it, I promise. But it's just a big thing. It's a big thing to be paying attention to. All right, let's take a look now at the back, though, because we didn't get the full story until we are in the back pose, of course. So from the back, Alexandra, what we could see here, a lot of shoulder coming through, almost looks a bit dominant up top compared, right? So very lean. We got like a lot of rear delt even, leaner into the upper body, tapers in well. Lower body looks good, but, it's not being the same symmetry as the upper body. It's just not, it doesn't have the same pop, right? Like if you look at the shoulder, let me take all my markers off there. If you look at the shoulders in this density, there's a lot of muscle density up top, not as much maybe down here in the glutes, right? And that's something that can factor, probably needs a little bit more of that upper glute fullness, a little bit more overall glute fullness, and then the symmetry of the quads and the hamstrings to tie those together just a little bit better with the glutes, and that would be a huge advantage from her. Also, she appeared very lean from the front, not the same from the back, and a lot of times that has to do with the muscle density going on in the posterior chain. So may need just a little bit more of that as well. And then over here, Alice in 7th, what we can see, overall, definitely a lot of shoulder shape coming from this, a lot of muscle into the lower body and the glutes and everything. It just seems to be a little bit much overall, a little bit much up top, a little bit much into the overall glute density here. And I think that, honestly, the glutes are kind of thrown off compared to the quads and the hamstrings at this point. So that's one of those areas that, again, probably needs to be just rebalance and things like that based on where this criteria is heading right now. Okay, let's take a look now at our 8th and our 9th as we move down the line here. Okay, so what we got, 8th place is Jordan, and then we have 9th place Ariana. Let's take a look. So Jordan is one of those athletes that, as I've reviewed her before, as I've seen her, at the Arnold, things like that, we've talked about how she had a lot of muscle, and, that was kind of the look I thought judges were moving off of at that time. She still has a lot of that muscle. I think she has changed it a bit to try to maybe, appease that look. Not as lean as we've seen her before, and I think that's on purpose probably, again, for that criteria. But overall, great shape, brings it all together here. She does have just a very muscle dominant physique for sure, like a lot of upper body muscle and a lot of size on that physique, as well as her conditioning maybe just a tad tighter still even yet than where she should be. And if you look at this comparison here, I mean, this is a very different look. Amy's got, a lot more of that shape there, a lot more of that just tying in with her physique, whereas Jordan has a lot more of the muscle look, just a lot more muscle density on her physique overall. And I think that's a main factor judges continue to kind of focus on this season. They're not looking for as much of that muscle and as much of that conditioning. And she did change her physique a bit here from previous competitions. And still, even then, it's 8th place here today at this one. So nothing to scoff at. All these athletes are bringing phenomenal physiques, great examples of the criteria, but these are things that I do think are factoring into placings right now and will trickle down to all of you watching, even if you're in the NPC, at your first events, things like that. Ariana, a lot of the same going on with her physique, right? So ninth place here. You know, a lot of shoulders going on, good taper in at the waist, not as much fullness coming from the glute, right? So instantly you can tell that kind of doesn't just not match what's going on up top. And that's going to be a factor in bikini because they are really looking for that symmetry up, down, left, right. They really want to see that just kind of entirely tie together at that point. So maybe it needs a little bit more fullness to that glute if you're going to have that much shoulder up top, or maybe, you know, bring the shoulders down a bit to better match the glute. Either way here, conditioning seems to be pretty good. Maybe, you know, that is probably right there, but it's just not the same amount of muscle. And you can really see that looking at Amy's glute versus Ariana's there. It's not coming through in that same way, that same effect. I'm assuming when we get to the back, as I always say, the full story is about to be told. So let's take a look here. So, you know, we look at Jordan, and again, you know, it's just a very muscled physique. So a lot of shoulder size, still tapers in here pretty well. Everything's good. Lower body wise, we're not getting as much of that dominance from the glute here. Like, it looks very dominant in the front, but from the back, the upper glute may need a little bit more work, a little more fullness overall here, because she has a lot of quads and a lot of hamstring density. Like, that's a lot of hamstring density. And that's because, you know, she obviously has a lot of muscle there. So realistically, again, I think that it's just a clear message from judges moving these more muscular athletes that are having a lot more muscle in bikini division down in placings a bit to kind of pull that together. Because again, this side by side gets pretty crazy, right? You look at Amy and you look at Jordan there, and you know, Jordan has a lot more muscle. This is first, this is eighth. That's a, you know, pretty big statement, I think, in a lot of ways when you really look at it, because that's pretty comparable conditioning from the back also, right? So overall, this seems to be where bikini is going. Do you like that direction? Do you like that idea? Do you agree? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know. I'd love to hear it. All right. Comment. Okay. Let's take a look at Ariana here now. So Ariana, again, you know, a little bit depleted from the glute from the front, a little bit depleted in the glute from the back. We can see all the shape is here. Everything's good. It's just not nearly as dominant as that upper body, right? So it's a little bit thrown off. We're getting a lot of upper body forward, you know, dominance here, and the tying could probably come through just a little bit tighter. And again, that's probably coming from just needing more glute development overall. So for her, those are the things I would really think are kind of tying together. And yeah, the bigger athletes, the leaner athletes, seem to be going a little bit lower. I think we have one more to look at here, and that's Lacey. Okay, so we already have looked at Ariana. Lacey, honestly, probably the leanest athlete of the groups. Okay, like, she's very, very lean. You can see it. You know, we got a lot of lines going on here, more lines into the quads and the glutes, and a lot going on in the upper body, veins and definition in the shoulders, very tight midsection. She's probably the leanest of our top 10, and she's taking 10th. So that's a very interesting thing to look at, right? Very good shape overall. You know, you can definitely tell she has a great muscle structure, good waist there, good glute structure. Everything's here. It's really probably more so just overall how lean she came in. That is a very lean look for bikini. And, you know, granted, that was to look for a while. That was where things were going. That look has really shifted a lot. And, you know, we look at that comparison. You look at Amy compared to that, and I just keep doing this. I know you're probably getting annoyed with me. You probably already clicked out. If you didn't yet, do my free trial. It's too good. It's too great. You got to check it out. All right, let's go. Last one, back from the back here. Again, like I said, she's probably the leanest in the group. She is also the leanest from the back. Still great shape. It all showcases very well, but a very, very lean just look overall. A lot of hamstring, a lot of cut going on here. That's probably the thing that puts her into 10th. You can even see a little bit more of that 3D coming from the tie-in. That almost becomes too much now compared to where bikini wants to go, where judges seem to be taking it, and where it's going this season. So overall, these are my thoughts about Pittsburgh Pro. Great examples, great physiques to all these athletes. I'm just trying to give all of you out there watching better insight, better ideas, you know, where this division could be going, what things to focus on for your prep. And, you know, if you are trying to compete in bikini right now, you want to focus on that shape. You want to focus on that hourglass. You want to bring that muscle fullness and bring home the right level of conditioning, not too hard, not too soft, and really just make sure you overall prioritize, you know, your fullness and your look and your balance. Balance is everything in bikini right now. We should just change the name of the division to Balance. In fact, if you think we should do that, give me a thumbs up. Let's change the division name to Balance, because basically that's where we're going. Plenty more videos coming. I know this is a long one. Thank you if you made it this far. Subscribe, hang out with me. Got a lot more coming. Coach Rye is out.